Just imagine a leader who called his team and said in a very depressing way, the merger has happened. 10, 20, 15 people are going to lose their jobs. We don't know whether all of them are going to lose their jobs, but then that will create that panic, which probably means your best people may leave. And as opposed to someone who called the same team on the other side and said, listen, I share your concerns. I even don't know what's happening, but I promise you that I will be open, transparent. I will keep communicating, and then everything will be fair. You kind of sharing the concern of your team and saying upfront as well, which helps you, because then your team will say, okay, you know what, we're in it together here, as opposed to just giving them. So I think empathy is one thing.
Thank you for listening to the podcast thus far. The one favor I would ask, if you're enjoying what you're listening to, is to press the follow and subscribe button on whatever media platform you listen to us, as it helps us grow our network and grow the podcast. So thank you and enjoy the podcast.
Hello and welcome back to Alchemy Uncensored. We're on our third season and we promise you that we'll bring in more valuable insights into the financial and tax sector of the UAE. Today, we've got Kamran Malik. Kamran Malik, a seasoned and dynamic regional CFO with over 18 years of experience leading finance teams across APAC, Middle East, and CIS. Kamran is widely respected for his strategic insight, deep expertise in corporate and financial reporting, and his ability to drive transformation through digital innovation and M&A execution. With a proven track record of building high-performing teams and streamlining operations through business process outsourcing, he has consistently aligned financial strategy with broader business objectives to deliver impactful results. Beyond the numbers, Kamran is deeply passionate about emotional intelligence and leadership. Bringing a human-centric approach to team development, he plays a pivotal role in driving regional growth and financial resilience while fostering a culture of collaboration and continuous improvement. So, Kamran, we finally got you here.
Absolutely. Pleasure to be here. Yeah, and you finally got me.
I finally got you. I finally locked you in.
Time.
So how's everything? How are you getting on?
Yeah, life is busy, but good. It's like currently with my role, it's right from APAC, different time zone geography to Middle East to CIS. It's challenging, but I think it's good. It's satisfying at the same time.
Good. Well, look, I gave you a high-level overview, but I can never do it justice. So if you can just give our listeners and viewers a bit of a story about Kamran, who you are.
Originally, I'm from Pakistan. I did my initial schooling from Pakistan. And then when I was 18, I went to UK. So I did my higher education from London. And then after 4 years there, since 2007, I moved to Dubai, and since then, I'm just part of the UAE.
You haven't left, yeah?
I haven't left. It's been 18 years working with various companies, now being part of Sulzer for the last 10 plus years.
Yeah.
Got married here, have two beautiful kids, daughter and a son.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, actually, one thing I just picked up on there from you, because a lot of the guests that we have on here, you went from Pakistan to UK, then to Dubai, yeah?
Yeah.
That's the route. So it's a constant theme that we see with a lot of our guest CFOs that, what was the reason? Just more digging into, because you obviously put yourself out of your comfort zone.
Absolutely.
Culturally going from Pakistan to London, I imagine was quite a...
It was a big cultural, I would say, shock. Growing up in Pakistan, fine. Come from a family, it was middle class, maybe a bit more as well. So in Pakistan, I would say, person A, give me water. Where are my socks? Going to UK was like, I have to cook everything. And the first few days, I was on a call with my mother. How to cook this, what to do now as well. And I think it has played a huge part in what I am today. And my first job, not many people know, I worked in McDonald's as a student. And something we'll discuss later as well. Yeah. So for me, even working in McDonald's was to be the best. So I clearly remember and got a very nice mentor who was the general manager. He was a guy from Caribbean, British national, but then originally from Caribbean. Then I remember in 6 months, I was like the supervisor. In a year, I was the manager. But that experience of working in McDonald's for a couple of years part-time really shaped me what I am today. Handling different customers.
Handling objections, complaints.
Exactly. Customer service, get to know different people. Sometimes, and that is where I developed my instinct and intuitions. This customer is coming. This is what I always used to tell, he's going to behave like this. And slowly it turns out that I would probably write 8 out of 10 times that the customer is nice or he's going to be a troublemaker. So experience for 4 years in London was massive in what I am today.
Yeah, but and again, it just comes back to the point, you put yourself out of your comfort zone. As opposed, as I said, you're from humble beginnings, Pakistan, where you had a reasonable
different culture,
good life, where you went into a new city. Of course, look, there's a reasonably big Pakistani community, obviously in London, but you put yourself out there, learned your lessons.
Absolutely. I mean, I can just tell you a funny incident. So I got my job, and it was third or fourth day. I was put in kitchen making Big Macs, and every time you have to cook the patties, you have to clean that thing. Yeah. So my hand slipped, and I got like burnt hair.
Okay, yeah.
It was like huge, and my father called me in the evening, and I just started crying. He's like, just can't stay here. I want to come back. And
Yeah.
he's like, I was expecting we'll say, you're crazy. But for that moment, he's like, okay, if you feel like, come back. I'm like, okay, I've got an option to go back. After like half an hour less, why would I go back?
Yeah.
It's an opportunity for me. I'm going to make best use of it. Yeah. So that's how it is. That's how it started.
A little bit off topic. What was your favorite meal? Big Mac meal?
In McDonald's,
Yeah,
coming
yeah.
from Pakistan, it was not all McDonald's were halal. But I remember sometimes I would take the exception. There was a meal called chicken crispy.
Yeah. Oh, the big chicken nuggets, yeah.
Yeah, crispy. But what I used to do was, once I became supervisor, then nobody can hold me back. Yeah. So I would used to have half tray of fries, ketchup and mayonnaise, and an extra large glass of Pepsi. That was my diet. I remember like in December, I was talking to my friend. I said, listen, it's been a week I haven't drink water, because every time you were thirsty, you will drink a Pepsi or a Sprite or a Mirinda. That's how our life was. You never used to put on weight. Now you even think of McDonald's and you put on weight.
You're good.
So, yeah, different.
No, good. Well, look, again, I just think it's a really good point for listeners that, I said you put yourself out of your comfort zone professionally, personally. And as you said, it's shaped you for, who you are now today. Coming back to UAE, being used to different cultures. I said you're the Caribbean boss as well. So you're exposed to a lot of different people, different backgrounds. So I guess that leads us into our first point, though, and it's a really important point. A lot of our guests, it's very finance focused, but, I was quite interested by some of the topics you have. So, and it's, for me, this is the biggest topic in UAE. For anyone who wants to get a job here, if you don't have emotional intelligence, you should stay where you are. So we want to, the importance of emotional intelligence, what's your thoughts on that?
I'm glad we're discussing this topic. One of my favorite topics, yeah. Probably once we discuss in a bit more detail, a lot of people, hopefully once they watch this video, will relate to it, that they have a portion of it or maybe all of it, or they don't have it, yeah. But between you and me, how many times we have heard about highly technical people from the best of the colleges and universities? They got a promotion into a leadership role and they just failed, yeah. Or as opposed to someone coming from a different background, may not be reputed university or so, they're still okay in technical knowledge, but they got the opportunity and they just grabbed it. Yeah. And that is why there's a widespread belief as well. And I fully agree with it, that finding leadership is more of an art than science. If it was just technical, you can just go to
read a book,
best universities, read the book. Of course, books does help. Yeah. Go to Oxford and then everybody would be like, you are there. Yeah. So one thing in common, which most of the inspirational leaders or effective leaders have, if you just look around, they have emotional intelligence. Now, their style could be different. One could be more subdued, analytical, and you will see leaders who will shout their manifestos right from the mountain top as well. Yeah. As I said, one thing which is common is emotional intelligence. And what emotional intelligence is made up of different components as well. Yeah. So the first one is self-awareness, and which is, I think, very important one. Are you really aware of your strengths, your weaknesses, your emotions, what drives you as well? Yeah. And I think this is very important for any leadership role as well. Yeah. Very, very brief example, or a common example for finance. We have heard about month-end closes and all that, and so many people feels pressure about that. Yeah. So anyone who is more self-aware knows that this deadline will have an impact on their own emotions, and then they will plan accordingly as well. Yeah. The other, I think, strength of having high self-awareness is you can handle difficult clients if you're in sales, or handle difficult people in your team, or even peers as well. Yeah. Because you know that their reaction will have an impact on your emotions, but you use that in a more constructive way as well. And the good thing is, like, I will give you my example. Years ago, probably I was not the same. I was not that self-aware. I will not say I'm highly emotional intelligent, but I was definitely not self-aware. So one of the things I did was I left a very reputed Fortune 500 company just for the sake of title and money. So, okay.
Yeah.
I was low on self-awareness. So I think if you're high on self-awareness, you kind of are not tempted by this financial thing, because you then look for a role. And changing role is not a bad thing, but you look whether that fits into your ambitions, your values as well. Yeah. So I think that is where it makes a lot of difference as well. Yeah. And the other thing, which is probably common for us in the hiring process, if you come across a candidate who is high in self-awareness, I mean, he will be happy with a smiley face, tell you about an incident or a situation where he messed up things, yeah, as opposed to someone who will say, oh no,
Everything's perfect.
everything is perfect, yeah. I mean, the other thing is, and I've seen in performance reviews as well, yeah. So when you point out to some of the candidates who are self-aware, they take it in a very positive way that, oh, this is my area of weakness and I need to work on it. As opposed to other people who will see you has said that, so it's
Get
probably
emotional.
a sign of
Yeah.
threat or he's going to fire me. So self-awareness is important.
And just digging into that then a bit, then, as you said, maybe a few years ago, or many years ago, you weren't as aware. What happened? Did you just have a light bulb moment and you realize maybe, how did you just naturally maturing, or?
It's a mix of things. You definitely mature as you grow up. You tend to learn a lot from your surroundings. And one of the important thing is, I would say, I then got 2 or 3 very good people around me who were not really finance, more my business partners, but having that experience, and you learn from them as well how they are thinking. We talked about book reading. It does help. I mean, you can understand from there as well. But then I think at the end of the day, you become more aware that these are your values. Like I felt after changing that job from a proper multinational to a smaller company, I can't just survive. I mean, there's some people who could survive, they are good at working in those environments. But for me, I felt like, no, I need a more stable environment where compliance and everything is the priority as well. Yeah. And I think the good thing about people who are self-aware as well is they're confident as well. Yeah. So just imagine if you're self-aware, you got an opportunity just to be part of a management meeting or a board meeting. If you're self-aware, you will know when to talk, when not to talk as well. Yeah. So you always talk about your strength. Like as a finance person, if you happen to be in like a top Sulzer management meeting, you would only be aware that, okay, let me talk more about finance. Let's not talk about engineering.
You're talking when you should be listening.
Exactly. So, and I think that is one of the key trait of emotional intelligence. You should listen more and then talk. Yeah. So emotional intelligence and then self-awareness is very important. And equally important is self-regulation, which is more like it adds on to yours. So you are aware, but then are you able to control your emotions as well? Yeah. Because at the end of the day, you see, all our emotions are biological impulses, right?
Yeah.
And it's okay. It's okay to get angry. It's okay to get depressed or frustrated. But people with high emotional intelligence would be able to control their emotions. That's the difference. At the end of the day, we are human. You're bound to have those emotions.
I think that's, again, why I was flagging it as so important, because culturally we are so diverse here. Different people, different cultures, they take things differently.
Absolutely.
Some good, some bad for all cultures. That was for me one of the biggest learnings coming out here, is that you need to know when to listen.
Absolutely.
when
and
to
I
talk.
think self-regulation is that quality of emotional intelligence that helps you understand different cultures, because you're able to control your emotions. So you're open to different cultures. You're even open to change as well. And people with high self-regulation they're very open to change as well. They will not resist because they know their emotions. They will control it. Let's see what the change is and then go with it. And I think one of the important thing, and it kind of applies to us as well, have teams working in different areas, geographies as well. And sometimes you feel like if they don't come across as good, you feel like, sometimes you feel like shouting or what do you have done? Yeah. And I think that is where your role as leader comes in, and that is where self-regulation helps you, because it's easy to just say, oh, you have not done a good job, or just stare at them, or you just boast up something. Yeah. But I think important thing is to analyze what has gone wrong, how you could have done better in terms of helping them as well. It's important to still debrief them, tell them you're unhappy about something, but give them solutions as well. Yeah, okay, these are the mitigating factors, or this is how you can do kind of going forward in a different way as well. But the disadvantage is, and I think that is where we as leaders need to play our role. People with high self-regulation or self-awareness don't really get credit as well. Yeah, because someone with high self-regulation will always come across as calm and cool. Yeah. And then somehow in a corporate culture, you like leaders who are fiercey, so it's important that we do recognize those people and not take their calmness and controlling their emotion as a weakness as well.
No, because sometimes the quietest man is the most dangerous man in the room. So the man who's listening to everything as opposed to giving everything out. So the next part of area I want to touch on is, probably moving on from this point, is leadership versus management. What's your views really in that space?
The the best thing about leadership is, as leader, you could set direction. You're talking about CEOs or maybe at our level in the region as well. You're setting direction of the company or your teams as well or your departments as well. The good thing about those vision or setting direction is, I will give an example. So most of the times you do things which are known. You're not coming up with ideas which nobody knows about. So as an example, I remember, I think there was a guy who was running Scandinavian Airlines. He became the CEO, Jan Carlson, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. Otherwise, forgive me.
Probably.
So when he became the CEO, he set the direction that he wants Scandinavian Airlines to be the best airline for the business class traveler. Yeah. Now this idea or this vision was there. Everybody had business class, but he was the one who came up with this and said, okay, because it will give us profitable growth because business class traveler travel more, they're ready to pay premium as well. Yeah. And nobody else thought about it. Yeah. So I think that is where leadership is more about setting directions, whereas management is more about taking that vision and then plan, budget, put strategies in place to implement those sort of directions as well. Yeah. And I think other role of leadership is more about aligning and motivating people. You could see that sometimes senior leaders, they're not that close to the market or the customer because they are right up there.
Yeah.
So it's important that people who are at those vantage points, you are close to them as well. Aligning people is more of a communication problem. Because when you don't communicate to the people, you don't give them the confidence that if they know about something in the market based on customer, technology, competition, they feel like they should not act because it will be struck down by the top management. And when you align people and you communicate them, okay, this is our direction then they feel that, okay, even if they take the initiative, they won't be vulnerable to someone saying, oh, why have you done this?
Yeah. And just digging into obviously you're in a leadership position now in Solskjaer. If you could say to a younger self, what were the areas for you that, self-awareness that you realized maybe you needed to work on when you were, 5-10 years ago? When you were, I guess, starting off with Solskjaer 10 years ago, roughly, to get in the position you're in now today, what were the things as you were going up the chain, for our listeners who are sort of mid-level finance professionals now that want to one day be in, the CFO seat? What were the areas for you personally that you had to?
I think probably 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I was motivated from when I joined McDonald's, I was motivated. I wanted to be the best, not just I'm going to be like a part-time student. Yeah. So motivation is important. Yeah. But what is equally important is, are you empathetic as well? Yeah. Maybe 10 years ago, I would not be that. Yeah. I would just get things done, not care about the feeling of the people around me as well. And I'm not saying when you being empathetic means you always say yes. Yeah. It's just the way you're going to communicate the message. Yeah. Went through a couple of mergers or, anyone who has gone through merger or acquisition, you realize whenever the merger happens, there's going to be that sense of fear of losing jobs as well. Yeah. So just as an example, just imagine a leader who called his team and said in a very depressing way, the merger has happened, 10, 20, 15 people are going to lose their jobs. Yeah. We don't know whether all of them are going to lose their jobs, but then that will create that panic, which probably means your best people may leave. And as opposed to someone who called the same team on the other side and said, listen, I share your concerns. I even don't know what's happening, but I promise you that I will be open, transparent. I will keep communicating and then everything will be fair. Yeah. So you kind of sharing the concern of your team and saying upfront as well. Yeah. Which helps you, because then your team will say, okay, you know what, we're in it together. Yeah. As opposed to just giving them. So I think empathy is one thing. The other thing I would tell people is it's okay to reveal your weakness. You're not perfect. We're all human. I am not an expert in tax. I usually tell my team, I'm not the best technical guy when it comes to IFRS as well. I don't need to be. It's okay to reveal your weakness as well, yeah, because then people can relate to you. Just imagine, as an example, I telling you, Conor, I'm the best when it comes to podcasts, yeah.
Yeah.
You're going to try to screw me up. But if I tell you, listen, I'm feeling a bit nervous, not be able to articulate well, English is not my first language. I'm trying to share that thing that, listen, at the end of the day, we are human, we can make mistakes. So I think it's important to reveal your weakness as well, because that creates trust and have that collaborative where your team can approach you and say, okay, you know what, I can give my idea to this guy because he's open. Otherwise, imagine if I say I'm the perfect, they will say, oh, this guy knows everything. Let's not even bother talking about it.
Yeah, I said, look, it's all about being human. And the biggest word I think I picked up on there is fairness.
Exactly.
Everything needs to be fair. And that's probably something I've learned myself in the last few years is that, you need to be fair. You need to be in someone else's shoes. And if you can I've got plenty of weaknesses. My team are definitely aware of them, but it creates that connection and bond. That
Exactly.
there's no superiority, or there's definitely not a case where I think I'm better, or people should think they're better. At the end of the day, we're all human.
Yeah, absolutely. My other suggestion to people who aspire to be leaders is that sometimes as leader, you need to be having those instincts and intuition as well. Yeah, because sometimes you want to read the room. You may not tell me something, but based on the body language, you should be able to. And this happens with experience as well.
And you go with your gut. I think that's
Exactly.
one thing I've learned. Whenever and it comes over time when you are in a leadership role, is that whatever your gut's telling you, it's probably right. But I think sometimes you don't want to believe it's right, and you think in your head it's the other thing. That's maybe the safer thing. But sometimes you have to just.
And it's a very important point, because leadership is risky.
Yeah.
Like what I said, if you are using your intuition, it could go wrong as well. Yeah, because what you're trying to do is in your own state of mind, you're trying to second guess or project what other person is thinking. Yeah, and that is where it goes back to emotional intelligence. Yeah. If you are social now, emotional intelligence, another important factor is being social. And social doesn't mean we're just gonna have parties, but it's social because of a purpose. In this case, where you want to sense and you want to use your intuition, it's always good to have your social circle internal where you can validate that is it what I'm thinking is correct or not. Yeah, so that comes to your point.
It's building the relationship, but that's one thing I've made mistakes on, where I didn't go with my gut and I went with the easier option, and it proved it to be the wrong option because it was the safer option. Sometimes, and again, the biggest thing with leadership is that sometimes you can't keep everyone happy, and sometimes you have to make difficult calls. But
absolutely, see, at the end of the day, if everything is going well, imagine a business, everything is flowing in, order, sales, profitability,
everyone's
cash.
paying you on time.
As a leader, what can you do? So I think leadership is where you come across your toughest challenges. That is where your real leadership comes out. That are you able to handle those difficult situations or not?
On the point of leadership, then, so you've seen leaders. What are the key effective traits that you've seen in leadership or leaders that you've dealt with, and also things that you maybe the things that aren't the best traits, so the pros and the cons.
I already mentioned about it's okay to reveal your weakness, to have your intuition as well. I think another one is, I think if you are a real leader, you should have tough empathy. When I say tough empathy means sometimes your team or the people around you, they're asking for what they want. I think as a leader, you should give them or tell them what is good for them as well. Yeah. And I think that is one thing people can consider tough empathy as well, because maybe, you sometimes pick up someone who could easily be the next level. Yeah. But he's shy, he's feel like, no, I need to be just a controller. Yeah. Know that he has the capability. So you help them, throw them to the deep end.
What someone needs to hear, not what they want to hear.
Exactly.
I think is probably
yeah, exactly. And I think sometimes as leaders, you want to be close to your team as well. But I think at the end of the day, it's always good to have a little differentiation as well. Yeah. It's like the way you run the meeting, the way you talk, the way you even dress as well. As an example, if I have to send a message to my team that timekeeping or urgency, you need to have sense of urgency. I should be the first one to start the meeting. Or you travel, you go around office for a quick trip. And I've seen certain leaders, I won't name them, but I've seen certain leaders, they walk fast just to signal that this is urgent. They just want to be ahead of you. So I think that is why, because at the end of the day, you want your team to be the best. Yeah. As leader, you just help them to be who they are and know the best version of themselves. Yeah.
Leading by example. If you're going to talk of doing things, I guess your team's going to pick up on it. People aren't silly or stupid, whatever we're going to call it. But if you're doing something different, just because they're not saying to your face, they're thinking it.
And I think that's a very important point. Your credibility as well. Not what you're saying, but also about what you have done in the past. How trustworthy you were, how honest you were, and also the message you are trying to tell them now. Is it in line with your actions as well? So you have to lead by example. Otherwise, it doesn't go well. Yeah.
I think a lot of our listeners are mid to senior level finance, tax, professionals. And the big thing is about building an executive presence, for people who want to get to that next level. And this is the problem, especially in finance, where you get controllers, guys who are maybe in sort of a back office function, and they're saying, how am I ever going to get to the top table? How do you build that sort of executive presence?
Sometimes you are kind of swept away in day-to-day work as well. I think if you want to go to the next level as well, it's important sometimes to have that bird eye view, get yourself out of that, day-to-day routine as well, just to see, once you are having kind of a balcony view, you tend to identify different patterns within your team, which could be politics, which could be work avoidance, which could be conflict of interest as well. So it's important that you take a back seat, take a step back, and then kind of have a bird eye view on what's happening. And that then helps you to give the right perspective to your team in terms of where you want them to be.
Not being too micromanaging, just letting things pan out, seeing what patterns emerge, and I guess see
exactly, because strength of leadership is, the reason you reach to a certain level is because you're good at providing solutions, and that is something you need to stop that, because you need to give that kind of chance to your team to experiment, to come up with solutions, because at the end of the day, you want the collective wisdom of your team or the company to move towards that vision. Because one person can't be doing everything. So it's important for your team to step up as well.
And a word which has been thrown around in UE for many years, a lot of people don't like this word, change management.
It is important, nowadays with so much happening at such a fast pace, whether it's products, competition, geopolitics, technology, moving from one ERP to another, moving from, one range of products to another as well, customer meets as well. So I think the most important thing is, when you talk about change management, it's important for people to understand what kind of challenge we are having here. Because usually, you come across technical challenges, which is for which the solution is known. You have done something, you just want to redo it again. I think the thing which is more challenging is if you want to adapt to a new process or change or values or culture as well. That's more like an adaptive challenge, for which there's no solution. You need to come up with a new solution as well, And I think that is where, as leader, your role is very important, because you need to not push people towards that thing, but probably you need to mobilize people or kind of give them a reason to move towards finding solutions for that. And I think that is where it's important sometimes when you're having adaptive challenges it's okay. Change is always stressful, right? You need to manage that. But without any stress, there won't be any change as well. So you need to have that. I usually give this pressure cooker example where you need that heat for the meat to cook. Similarly for your teams as well, because at the end of the day, different ideas will generate to innovation and learning as well. But you want to regulate that. You don't want that to just blow up as well.
Well, I think the biggest challenge, what I've seen in the UE, especially for people who aren't in the region, is that the reason why adaptive or change management is sometimes treated with such resistance is that, Sults are, very lucky to have you for 10 years, but in general, a lot of senior CFOs, regional CFOs, their tenure isn't as long in the position. So how I see from the outside is that because there's quite a lot of transition sometimes with C-level positions in companies, that your vision could be very different to the next person's vision. And that's and again, that's just when people come into this region that sometimes they look at companies and go, "Wow, I thought you'd be way ahead in your ERP or implementation." And that's why, if just for listeners who are looking at coming into the region, if you go for an interview and you sort of say, "Wow, well, we're in my home country, we're way more efficient, our processes and stuff like that." So
absolutely,
that's one of the reasons. I'm sure there's other reasons, but obviously in my position, I get to see so many CVs and tenures and role. And
absolutely, I remember somebody mentioned to me, I don't know if somebody said or I read somewhere, but then it's not the companies you work for, it's your managers or the leaders you work for. And I think that makes perfect
people
sense.
leave their manager.
Exactly.
Or money. It's usually, look, nobody ever calls my team or I saying, "Hey, I absolutely love my job. Find me another one."
Fully agree. And that is why, if you see, it again goes back to emotional intelligence as well. And I think not within the region as well, but across different companies or most of the companies, you would see that we are overmanaged and underled, right? You have a lot of managers, but very few leaders as well, And that is where you see now in the last few years, probably companies are investing a lot on competency metrics and understanding, like
how people tick,
how you can develop the next kind of out of leaders as well. Just to share, I think there's an author called Daniel Goleman, and he writes about what makes you as a leader. So he did years of research developing different competency metrics. It was more about technical skills, your IQ, and also your emotional intelligence. And the results were just shocking. You do need technical knowledge, and it was very important driver of your outstanding performance. You need your cognitive skills like analytical skills, and they were important. But when they were looking at the ratio of outstanding performance, emotional intelligence was twice as important as technical skills. Yeah. And again, coming back to emotional intelligence, one of the important thing is your own motivation. People have told me, "Oh, you need to slow down," because you feel restlessness. You feel like, "Oh no, this thing could have been done better." It's like more like you work in a different way than a standard status quo as well. Yeah, and motivation is also more like your commitment to the organization as well. Yeah, and that is where coming back to your point, you don't see too many people working for long. Yeah. And I think it's down to if you really are passionate about what you're doing, you see in your current role, you can add value, it's in line with your values and beliefs, you tend to stay long. Yeah. But it comes back to emotional intelligence again. Are you self-aware enough to understand if that's the role you need?
Well, it comes back to fairness and being treated well, because the grass is not always greener on the outside. As you said yourself, when you switched roles, years ago from a big company, you were maybe blinded by the cash and
title and money.
the title. And we see that so much, is that if someone's about to resign, what are your motivations? Is it money? If it's money, then go speak to your boss before going through a whole recruitment process. Only to get counter offered, because that is a challenge in this market, is that there's probably more difficult companies than really great companies in my opinion. And then Cameron, just before we close up, I said, for someone that's been with Sulzer for 10 years and counting, I think, what's kept you there, or what are the values Sulzer has?
Even before coming to the values as well, it's important, as you said, end of the day, it's a two-way thing. You want to work for the company because you're passionate about, it's in line with your values, but then it's the other way around as well. Are you getting the right exposure, right experience, and then new opportunities as well, which will keep you going as well. Yeah. Coming back to the competency, I think that is where Sulzer values are brilliant, because they are more linked to your emotional intelligence. So Sulzer has basically 4 values. It's about being proactive, which means you seize opportunities, don't wait for other people to come, you need to own them as well. So finding opportunity is one thing, but then owning it, making sure that you are the one who's going to lead them forward as well. Teamwork, we talked about in emotional intelligence that one person cannot do all the change. Yeah. So it's important to team up as well. Yeah. And the most important thing, which I believe is the most important out of the 4, which is the last, is getting things done. Yeah. Even if you identify an issue or a challenge, you own it, you team up. But if you don't get this done, you will be stuck in something called like alignment. I can't remember the name, but it's like, you need to get things done. That is where you create value. So these are the 4 sorts of values, basically seize opportunities, own it, team up, and get things done. Impact. Yeah.
Procrastinating, I think that's because I think in the day and age we're in, where people spend so much time looking down on their phone, I think it's that just getting it done is such a It's such a quality which I suffer myself, where you're just getting an endless scroll on your phone and it just takes you off balance.
Yeah, absolutely. I think important thing for leaders is you never give up. You always feel optimistic. I mean, you don't need to be unrealistically ambitious, but you never give up.
You lose more than you win. Okay.
But then it's about leadership. It's about you all aligned. You keep trying. You don't give up.
I think you've everyone working together, and also it's important that everyone's telling you, the truth in these situations. Exactly. Otherwise, you can be misaligned. Okay, perfect. Well, look, Cameron, we're gonna close here. Final few questions for you. So, what's the one piece of advice you give to our listeners?
I think it's important for anyone in any role just to be yourself, be honest, and be fair in terms of what are you doing, and just give your best. Yeah, I think that's the piece of advice. Keep trying, never give up.
Yeah, exactly. And then we have a few quick fire questions just to finish off. So if you could have a conversation with your younger self, what would you say?
If I was probably more self-aware.
More
self-aware.
And what's your personal definition of success?
I won't say it's about any financial numbers or titles or the salary you're getting. I think it's about the value you're adding to your organization or your team. And if I genuinely believe, if even one person within the team looks up to me, I think that's what gives me the real satisfaction.
Yeah, that gives you
that's my achievement. Like if people want to follow you, because at the end of the day, if you're a leader cannot be without followers. Yeah, so it's important people follow you, and they can. And that's probably for me would be the achievement.
But that again, as your point is, that gives you the kick now.
Yeah,
exactly. The titles, all these things.
Exactly.
As you get older, I have a fancy title, but it doesn't really mean anything without your followers or team behind you. So Cameron, look, on behalf of Alchemy, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. And
Player.
looking forward to releasing this one.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for having me. It's honestly a pleasure. Yeah.
You did
I was
well.
a bit nervous.
You were a bit nervous. You're
but it went
natural.
well,
You're a natural. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure to subscribe to our podcast. See you on our next episode.